How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to Gear 101. So on today's episode, we are going to be zeroing the new Leupold VX Freedom 350 Legend. This is a 3 to 9 by 40 scope that Leupold has designed specifically for the 350 Legend cartridge. So we've got a new Ruger American 350 Legend, new scope, putting it together here with some D&Z rings. So we're going to check it out, zero it, see how it is to zero, check that the adjustments are all measuring what they're supposed to, and lastly we will utilize Leupold's CDS dial there that comes with this scope. It is designed for a 150 grain load traveling at 2,325 feet per second, so we'll check that out, see how well it works, but y'all stick around, should be interesting. So the first thing we're going to do is take these adjustment covers off on the side there. This is the CDS, so this one is fixed. So what we're going to do is move this one and this one around till we get it where we want it. Once we do, we will loosen these set screws, pick it up, put it back to where the one is lined up with this mark, and then it should be dialed in at 100 yards. Also keep in mind that this is a short to medium range rifle caliber, if you will, so they do have it set up for 100 yard zero, which I think is the smart move. So you're going to see here, it does have the one there. So that there is set to 100 yards. As you spin it around, so you go to the 2, so that's going to be 200 yards. And you can take this scope all the way to, the last marking is 3.5, which is going to be 350 yards. But you can take it a bit farther, but the last marked yardage is 3.5, so 350. And whenever you return it back to the 1, it's going to stop right there, letting you know you are back to 0. So the fastest way to zero a rifle scope, in my opinion, if you have a removable bolt, is to go ahead, remove that bolt, and I've got a target set up at 50 yards. So ideally, for 100 yard zero, we're probably looking at being right at dead on at 50, if not maybe just a little bit low at 50. So what we're going to do is just look through the barrel, put the dot where we want to hit in the center of the bore, look up at the scope, adjust it, and just keep doing that until the crosshairs are on the dot and the dot is in as much into the center of the bore as possible. That's just the way I typically do it, and it typically, is pretty simple and pretty quick. You can get on paper, usually a lot faster than with a bore sighter, so we're going to go ahead and do that now. All right, so those look pretty well lined up. We'll go ahead and throw some earplugs in. Just gonna use this 145 grain Winchester 350 Legend ammo. It is full metal jacket. According to the specs on the box, this should give us about the right velocity for this custom dial system on Leupold scope. So we'll see how that works out. So we're gonna go ahead and fire the first shot and see if we are on paper. All right, so I can see through the scope that I'm about 2 inches to the left and about 3 inches high. So what we're gonna do is basically chase the bullet hole. So we're gonna put the crosshairs on the dot where we want it to hit, and then we're gonna try to hold it as still as possible and just move the turrets and put the crosshairs right on where we did hit, which in theory should move everything right to the center where it needs to be. Now obviously it's going to be pretty hard to get it exactly right. I don't have a vise, I'm just on sandbags. So just kind of get it close and fire another one and see what it looks like. So that one is 1 inch to the right and about 1/2 inch high. So we'll go ahead and make one more adjustment and then see if we're in the middle. Still a little bit to the right, so I'm gonna go ahead and just shoot one more. Make sure that nothing's screwy there. All right, so we're good at 50 yards. Now we're gonna take the target back to 100 yards and make the fine adjustments, and then we'll go ahead and set our CDS system, and this thing should be good to go. All right, so the barrel's had about 5 minutes to cool off now. I did move the target on back to 100 yards. I ended up just moving the adjustment knob a couple more clicks back to the left after I seen the target. So left and right should be really darn close at 100. We'll go ahead and shoot one, see where it's at, because I'm not sure if it's going to hit high or low at 100. You know, we was about dead on up and down at 50, but we'll see where it's going to be at 100, and then we'll go ahead and set the CDS. So I'm thinking that hit right in amongst all those other ones that we shot at 50. 9-power scope, it's kind of hard to pick out exactly which one's which, so I'm going to shoot one more just to make sure, and then I'm just going to go down there and see what it looks like. All right, so just so you all can kind of get up to speed on what's happened, just bore sighting it with my eyes through the barrel of the gun at 50 yards. This is the first shot. These 3 here were the next 3 at 50. So what I did was I moved it about 2 clicks back to the left, and then at 100 yards shot this one and this one. So obviously I still need it to go farther to the left because it's hitting about the same after moving it 2 clicks, which makes sense because, you know, the farther you go, the worse it's going to look. So I'm going to move it. That's about 1 inch. I'm going to go ahead and move it about 3 more clicks to the left. And as far as the up and down, I think I'm going to leave it alone just to kind of see, because this one's just a little bit above center and this one's a little low. So we'll just shoot some more and kind of see what the up and down is looking like. And keep in mind, it's Full Metal Jacket's probably not the most accurate round, so right now we're just trying to get it close, and then we'll go ahead and put a hunting round in before we do our final adjustments and set that CDS system down. And while I'm walking back, let me just say that this thing is a dream to shoot. Like, you read about it online, you think, you know, yeah, it's just people trying to sell new guns and new calibers and new ammo, but there's really like no recoil. So I think there's something to be said for that. You know, I'm not really a huge fan of 243, but a lot of people use it because it doesn't recoil at all, so it's great for new shooters. I think this is going to be an excellent option for kids because, you know, a super lightweight package, no recoil, and 150 grain bullet. So, you know, I think there might be something to it. All right, so we got it pretty close at 100 yards with the FMJ ammo, but I am starting to wonder if maybe the FMJ is just not quite accurate enough to fine-tune this scope. So what we're going to do is go ahead and switch to the 150 grain Deer Season XP from Winchester. Try that, see if we can get a little bit more consistent of a pattern, and then really fine-tune this thing and finally set that CDS turret down where it needs to be. All right, so that one is pretty darn good. We're talking 1/4 inch left, 1/4 inch low, at 100 yards with 9 power. I'm probably not going to mess with it at all unless I see, you know, some more consistent printing to an opposite direction. But that one is where it needs to be. We'll give the barrel just a second and then run one more through it. Hopefully it'll be right in there where it needs to be as well. I think those two are touching. We'll go ahead, walk down there and just double check before we do anything major on the scope, but I think that they're both really close to where they need to be. All right, so these two here were the last 2 shots at 100 yards. That was whenever we switched ammo to the Deer Season XP from the FMJ, so it definitely likes that ammo better. We'll go ahead and set that CDS dial, and hopefully it locks it in where it needs to be. All right, so we know that the windage is where we want it to be, so we'll go ahead and put the cover on that. That way we don't bump it. So when you buy this scope from Leupold, you're gonna get this little Allen wrench. And what we're gonna do is just go ahead and loosen these set screws up. You're gonna have 3 set screws on there. So you're gonna loosen those up to where it spins freely. Spin it back to the 1 for 100 yards. We'll just go ahead and snug all these set screws up. Don't over tighten them because it doesn't take much to hold this on. You don't want to risk stripping them out. As long as they're snug enough with this little Allen wrench, you're going to be fine. So that's all there is to it. So we'll go ahead and shoot one more through this, just double check. I mean, it should be good. Now we should be able to spin it to 200, back down to 100, and we should be good. All right, so we're going to put one more onto that target down there, and hopefully it's really close to the same spot those last 2 were. So that one was about a ½ inch lower than those other two. Obviously, we're going to go ahead and double check everything and make sure that it's not the gun, that it's me. And if it is the gun, we'll go ahead and adjust it. But that's how you're going to do this. You're going to loosen those up. You know, you're going to adjust it where you want it. You'll loosen the set screws, spin it back to the one, tighten it back down. The nice thing about it is that it's super quick. So, you know, if depending on the conditions, temperature, all that kind of stuff, elevation, if anything changes, it's not hard to reset that thing. Just literally 3 set screws, loosen them, spin it back to 0 or to 1 in this case for 100 yards, and just go from there. So y'all, that's it for this video and zeroing the new Leupold VX Freedom 350 Legend scope. We'll go ahead on the next video, probably we'll test it out as far as making sure that it tracks good. We'll spin it up to 200, back down to 100, kind of check how all that works, make sure it's going back where it needs to go. If you like this video, hit like, subscribe to the channel for more videos on Leupold scopes or this Ruger American 350 Legend. Definitely subscribe if you haven't already. Like this video, give it a thumbs up. Let me know in the comment section what other videos you might want to see. Till next time, y'all be safe.